They say love is born from contact, but they ignore that desire. That silent fire that corrodes and builds at the same time only flourishes in absence. Do you really believe that always being present will make her love you more? Or that responding to every message immediately will make her value your company? The truth, painful but liberating, is that in the invisible game of attraction, the more you give in, the more she withdraws. And no, this isn't cynicism. It's the raw nature of the emotional dynamics between the sexes. A woman doesn't fall in love with the one who's always there. She falls in love with the one whose absence echoes, with the one who leaves her alone with her thoughts, the one who allows her to feel the emptiness so that she yearns to fill it with his presence. That's the kind of man she loves. You've seen it happen. A guy does everything, is always available, sends flowers, makes late-night video calls, plans surprises. And what happens? She starts to pull away. Suddenly she's busy, tired, or confused by her own feelings. Now consider the opposite. The man who doesn't beg, who doesn't chase, who lives his own life and is selective with his time. This is the man a woman can't stop thinking about. This is the man she pursues, even without admitting it. This is the perverse logic of hypergamy. Her desire doesn't respond to your affection. It responds to your perceived value. And value isn't measured by how much you love her, but by how much you're capable of living without her. This is why absence is the secret weapon men don't use, or when they do, they use it wrong. Because absence isn't ghosting. It's not contempt. Absence is dominance. It's knowing when to show up and when to disappear. It's understanding that silence, well used, screams louder than any declaration of love. And this goes against everything you've been taught. We live in a world addicted to attention, likes, and notifications. Being emotionally inaccessible today is almost a crime. But that's exactly what creates real attraction. She can't value something she never misses. And as long as you're there, always available, you'll be the man she respects but never desires. That's why this video will change the way you view relationships. We'll destroy the myth of the more the merrier and reveal why distance, pause, and emotional vacuum are the most powerful tools in the art of attraction. We'll delve into the female mind and expose the reverse engineering of desire. Why does she pull away after sleeping with you? Why does she test? Why does she disappear just to see if you chase her? The answer isn't chance, but an ancient biological, psychological, and social cycle that operates beneath the surface. And this is where your transformation begins. Not with ready-made phrases or bar tricks, but with deep strategic understanding. With the awareness that your presence only has value when there's absence. That your strength isn't proven by speaking louder, but by resisting the urge to explain yourself. And more, that you'll only be truly desired when she feels she might lose you. Stay with me until the end, because what you're going to learn today isn't just about how to win a woman over. It's about how to win yourself back. And when that happens, it won't be you chasing her. It will be her, wanting to understand how a man who could have anyone chose her, and only her. Have you ever seen a painting too beautiful to be noticed? A work of art hung every day on the same wall, at the same angle, in the same light. After a while, it becomes invisible. Not because it's lost its value, but because it's lost its mystery. That's what happens to you when you become predictable. When you're always available. When you respond the next second. When you're there, always. You're no longer a novelty. You've become decoration. And this is the fatal mistake most men make. Confusing proximity with connection. Presence with value. From childhood, we're conditioned to believe that love is synonymous with presence. Stay close. Show you care. Don't keep her waiting. But this emotional manual was written for the male brain. We men cling to constancy. We measure love in frequency. But the female mind doesn't work that way. What comforts us bores her. What makes us feel secure makes her feel predictable. Women, biologically speaking, are programmed to value what's in motion. That reveals itself and hides itself. That intrigues more than it answers. And as politically incorrect as it may seem, that's precisely why you need to unlearn what you've been taught, or you'll be swallowed up in the routine of emotional invisibility. Philosophy already warned us. Nietzsche said, "All that is profound loves a veil." And the man who is too available, too transparent, too explanatory, tears through that veil. He undresses emotionally before his time. And in doing so, he breaks the enigma that could keep her intrigued. Because deep down, female desire is fueled by gaps, not excess. By doubt, not certainty. What's certain is safe, but what's safe is rarely sexy. This is the paradox. You think you're doing everything right. You take her to dinner, send her flowers, respond with emojis, tell her how special she is, and little by little, she pulls away. She doesn't fight, she doesn't complain, she just disappears. Because she no longer feels tension. She doesn't feel the game, the risk, the dance of attraction. And without it, her instincts become dormant. You become a good friend, an emotional shoulder, the nice guy she likes but doesn't desire. And therein lies the subtlest poison of modern seduction. The illusion that constant presence is love. It isn't. Constant presence is necessity. And necessity is the opposite of perceived value. When you're always there, what you're silently saying is, I have nothing else to do. You're all I have left. And that, to the female psyche, is a red flag. Because if you have no options, if you have no life beyond her, then you're a man in scarcity. And a man in scarcity doesn't activate desire. It activates the flight instinct. The desired man isn't the one who chases. He's the one who walks slowly, because he has options. He's the one who responds calmly, because he's busy. He's the one who shows up rarely. But when he does, the world stops. And that's not a game. That's value. It's the reflection of a man with purpose, with a mission, with an inner center. A man who doesn't live for a woman, but who chooses to be with her when it makes sense, and not out of need. And here comes the most powerful concept of this chapter. Controlled unpredictability. This isn't being unstable. It's being enigmatic. It's understanding that a strategic silence is worth 1,000 words. That disappearing for a day can be more seductive than declaring your love in public. Because you give her space to let her imagination work for you. And imagination, my friend, is the fertile ground for desire. Want a practical example? Observe the behavior of bad boys. They're not better. They're not smarter. Often, they're not even better looking. But they have one characteristic that sets them apart. They're scarce. They're not always available. They make her doubt, question, desire. And this, as contradictory as it may sound, is what creates real attraction. They're the opposite of the predictable guy, the overly accessible guy. And that's why they're remembered. But calm down. I'm not telling you to become a scoundrel. I'm telling you to understand the psychological mechanism behind attraction. You can be respectful, upright, honest, and still be scarce. Be selective. Be a challenge, and that's the key. You shouldn't always be there. You must be remembered. And to be remembered, you need to know how to leave, know how to be absent, know how to disappear gracefully. Because it's in your absence that she'll remember your scent, your gaze, your words. It's in your absence that she'll begin to love you. Look around you. Everything rare is valuable. Gold, diamonds, works of art, and everything common is disposable. What do you want to be? A costume necklace anyone can buy, or a rare jewel that only appears once in a lifetime? In your presence management, in your present, in your emotional control. And this is where you'll start to turn the tables. Stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop responding on the first touch. Create gaps. Create pauses. Use silence as your ally. Let her miss you before she feels your presence. Because desire is a bonfire. It needs oxygen to grow. And oxygen in this case is the space you create. A calculated absence, the right amount of distance. But be careful, don't confuse this with contempt. Contempt destroys. Strategic absence builds. It's a subtle dance between being and not being, between speaking and being silent, between appearing and disappearing. And in this dance, you're the one leading. And if you do it masterfully, she'll desire you like she's never desired anyone. After all, she can only miss something that's already gone. And it's in this emptiness that you plant desire. That you activate the imagination, that you become a presence even in your absence. Because in the end, the man she loves is the one she fears losing. Now perhaps you're thinking, but what if I disappear and she forgets me? And I answer you, if she forgot you, it's because she never truly felt it. Because what's real, what's profound, what touches the soul, it's not forgotten. It transforms into longing. In absence that hurts, in presence that is begged for. And it is precisely in this fine line between distance and desire that the true male advantage lies. An invisible but powerful advantage. You control the time. you control the pace, and above all, you control how much she can have of you. Because in the end, desire only exists where there is a limit, where there is room to grow. And if you understand this, you will realize that your silence is worth more than any declaration of love. Now close your eyes and imagine. What if instead of anxious messages, you gave her the gift of doubt? What if instead of constant presence, you offered the privilege of your scarcity? What if, instead of trying to prove your love, you made her miss your absence? This is where you begin to turn the tables. But this is just the beginning. Because now that you understand the fatal flaw of proximity, you are ready to explore the root of female desire, hypergamy. Not as an abstract concept, but as an emotional gear that can be activated or sabotaged with every decision you make. Hypergamy. The word sounds technical, distant, almost clinical, but what it represents is visceral, emotional, primal. It's the secret engine that drives the deepest decisions of female desire, and which most men ignore or fight. Which is a brutal mistake, because fighting hypergamy is like yelling at the ocean for having waves. It's useless. Hypergamy isn't a choice, it's an instinct. And understanding this is more than an advantage, it's emotional survival. Imagine that, within every woman, there's a silent, always active radar, scanning for signals, even unconscious ones, of the best available partner. Better not just in beauty or status, but in emotional stability, dominant presence, and self-control. A man she admires, but at the same time fears losing. A man who carries within himself the symbol of exception. And here's the point that hurts. If she feels she can have you at any moment, she stops desiring you. If she perceives you as predictable, too emotionally accessible, and that your world revolves around her, the radar goes off. Too weak. And attraction begins to die silently. Most men think they'll lose a woman by keeping their distance. They believe that by demonstrating desire, she'll feel more secure and reciprocate with affection. But male logic fails here, because female desire doesn't feed on security, it feeds on perceived value. And value, in the game of hypergamy, isn't what you say you have. It's what she believes you have, compared to what she can achieve. Yes, comparison. Because every woman is biologically programmed to measure, compare, and seek the best. Not the objectively best, but the best within her emotional perception. And that's why the man who seems difficult, mysterious, and emotionally centered always wins. Even if he's not the most handsome or the richest, he becomes a rare emotional experience. And the rare, as we've seen, is irresistible. Let's be clear. Hypergamy isn't evil. It's not manipulation. It's programming. It's the same impulse that made women in ancient tribes prefer the wisest warrior, the most efficient hunter, the leader who survived where others fell. Today, the battlefields are different. They're social, emotional, digital. But the instinct is the same. She needs to feel she's with a man others respect. A man who, if she doesn't care, someone else will take. And what's more, a man who doesn't need her to live. Who chooses, but doesn't depend on her. Who gives, but doesn't beg. This is the man she loves, and that's why his absence becomes a value amplifier. See how this manifests itself. The man who communicates little, who responds slowly, who always seems busy, activates the hypergamous instinct more than the one who sends flowers every day. And this isn't because she likes being mistreated, but because this behavior signals something. He's worth more than the time he dedicates to her. And this, paradoxically, increases his value in her eyes. She thinks, if he's not chasing her, it's because he doesn't need to. If he doesn't need to, it's because he has options. If he has options and he chose me, then I'm special. And that's it. The tables have turned. This is the cheat code few know. Average men, between a 5.5 and a 7 on a sexual market value scale, can satisfy female hypergamy better than men with a 9 or 10, if they understand this mechanism. The 9, who is needy, jealous, and overly present, loses badly to the 6, who is calm, busy, and exudes quiet strength. Because again, desire isn't about who's better, it's about who seems more valuable. And appearing more valuable is about emotional control. It's about strategic absence. It's about living a life that doesn't revolve around her. But most men ruin everything with their cell phones. With too many messages, with videos and direct messages, with daily good morning beautiful messages that turn into emotional spam. They think they're nurturing the connection, but they're eroding the value. Because the modern woman is numb to excess. Too much attention, Too much dopamine, too much validation. Do you want to make a difference? Reduce the dose. Create scarcity. Make your attention a rare currency, not a bargain bin. She needs to miss your presence to recognize your value. And that only happens when you're distant. When she checks her phone and doesn't see your message. When she falls asleep wondering what you're doing. When she wakes up and still feels your absence. It's in this space that desire grows. It's in this vacuum that she begins to imagine, to project, to fall in love. One of the most serious mistakes men make today is clinging to communication. They need the ping of notifications to feel validated. And the more they need it, the more they realize he's emotionally weak. And a woman, no matter how empathetic, will never desire a weak man. She can care for him. She can love him with pity. But desire? Never. Because desire is the offspring of respect. And respect is born from the perception of value. It's a cruel cycle, but it's real. Think of the stoic man, the one who lives his own mission, who responds when he can, not when he feels anxious. The one who doesn't engage in the game of emotional manipulation because he's already mastered his own internal game. This is the man hypergamy idolizes, because he represents the rare, the desired, the unattainable, and not out of arrogance but by choice. Because he lives in a world where validation comes from within, not from others. And it's this autonomy that women, deep down, desire to absorb. The philosopher Camille Paglia said that a woman desires what dominates her emotionally, but respects what keeps her in doubt. And that's exactly it. Doubt is an aphrodisiac. Certainty is an anesthetic. That's why the more you explain your feelings, the less she feels them. The sooner you give in, the more she pulls away. It's a paradox that irritates romantics but stirs desire. You don't need to be rude. You need to be selective. You don't need to be cold. You need to be centered. And that's the difference between the man who attracts and the one who pursues. You want to be the chosen one, not the one who struggles. The one remembered, not the one who forgets. The one who imposes presence in absence, not the one who begs attention in presence. And this is only possible when you understand hypergamy not as an enemy, but as a strategic ally, as an impulse that can be awakened as long as you know how to position yourself. And positioning begins with how you control your exposure, your frequency, your silence, because the right silence carries more emotional weight than 1,000 desperate words. Imagine for a moment, an average man, average salary, average looks, average height, but he knows how to exit the scene with class, who knows how to disappear at the right moment, who knows how to not respond for hours without feeling guilty. This man, for the woman accustomed to digital flatterers, becomes a mystery, a challenge, an emotional puzzle, and every challenge that activates the female mind activates desire. Now, apply this to your life. How many times have you made yourself disposable by being too available? How many times have you noticed that the more affection you gave, the less she responded? It wasn't a lack of love, it was an excess of presence. Zero absence. And desire isn't born in a lap, it's born in distance, in an exchanged look without promise, in a presence that leaves longing, and longing only exists where there is absence. Therefore, if you truly want to activate her hypergamy and not be destroyed by it, you need to learn to be selective, to control your time, to master the impulse to please, to be a rare presence in a sea of desperate presences. Because in the end, it's not the strongest, the most beautiful, or the richest who wins. It's the scarcest, the most centered, the hardest to replace. This is the silent rule of female desire. And understanding this changes everything. It changes how you communicate, how you expose yourself, how you respond, how you live, and most importantly, how she sees you. Because when she begins to feel like she might lose you, that's when she begins to truly love you. Now you know why absence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And why hypergamy, when activated correctly, places you above even men considered better by superficial metrics. But this leads us to an even deeper truth. Because even when you understand all this, there's a silent and powerful force that can destroy your worth in her eyes. A force that acts without you realizing it, that constantly tests you, that's present in her every word, every gesture, every silence. This force has a name. The feminine tests. And understanding how to face them and overcome them is what will determine whether she will love you or replace you. She will test you, always. And if you don't understand why this happens, you'll mistake these tests for rejection, coldness, or manipulation. And even worse, you'll react emotionally, proving exactly what she fears most: that you're weak, that you're unstable, that you're the kind of man who succumbs to his own insecurity at the slightest silence or retreat. But what she's really doing, unbeknownst to herself, is asking for confirmation. Confirmation that you're the kind of man she can admire, surrender to, trust. Feminine tests aren't mean. They're filters, and if you fail them, it's not just desire that disappears, it's respect. And without respect, there's no love. Let's dissect this with the coldness the game demands. The female testing cycle follows an almost mathematical sequence: approach, sex, withdrawal, observation, repetition. She approaches, engages you, connects, and as soon as she senses you're starting to get attached, she pulls back. Not because she's lost interest, but because she needs to see what you do without her. She needs to see if you break, if you chase, if you go crazy, if you become destabilized. This moment is decisive, because what she's observing isn't your rational reaction, it's your emotional structure. She wants to know if you're the man you say you are, or just another man pretending to be strong to win her over and then falling apart. This is the part that hurts. You can do everything right at first. You can seduce, generate attraction, be firm, be in control. But if, at the first sign of her pulling away, you panic emotionally and try to save the connection, she understands that you're still in need, that you're still afraid of losing. And this fear for her is the greatest inverted aphrodisiac there is. Because a man afraid of losing is not a dominant man. He's a fragile, reactive, overly available man. And the female emotional brain instantly associates this with something that can and should be replaced. And here's the brutality of the dynamic. The test never ends. Never. No matter how long you've been together, no matter if it's dating, engagement, or marriage, she will test it. Because she needs this constant confirmation. She needs to see if the strength you demonstrated at the beginning is real or just short-term emotional marketing. And if you're not prepared for this, if you haven't truly internalized your emotional strength, you will fail. You will over-explain. You will seek validation. You will demand reciprocity. And all of this will scream in her mind, he's not ready. It's at this point that most relationships fall apart without warning. The man thinks everything is fine because they're together, because she still sleeps next to him, because she still posts pictures of herself smiling. But internally, she's already deactivated desire. She's already entered critical observation mode. She's already started listing reasons to leave. And the worst part, she doesn't always know how to explain it. Because these tests aren't conscious. They're part of a primitive, almost instinctive dance. She doesn't plan to back down. She simply feels it. She feels like she needs to see if you're holding your ground, if you're real. An example. She stops responding with the same enthusiasm. She starts taking hours to reply to messages. She cancels a date at the last minute. She says she's confused or needs some time. This doesn't mean it's over. It means things have gotten serious. And now she needs proof. She needs to see if you're maintaining your life, your calm, your focus. Or if you break down, start demanding, sending paragraphs, demanding explanations. When you do this, she doesn't feel sorry. She feels repulsed. Because at that moment, what she wanted to see was strength. And you betrayed neediness. Do you want to know what she thinks when you react badly to the test? She thinks, if he's like this, because of my silence, how will he react when life gets really tough? And this question kills the connection, because she begins to see you as a man who depends on her to maintain his balance. And no desire survives this role reversal. Because no matter how much modern discourse tries to rewrite the rules, the female instinct still seeks protection, emotional stability, security. And if you need her to be well, then you're not the man she wants. But if, on the contrary, you understand the test and don't react, don't despair, don't seek answers, she feels something else. She feels respect. She feels admiration. And this admiration, when sustained, turns into fascination. And fascination, when nurtured consistently, turns into love. Not the romantic, idealized love of movies and soap operas, but the love that is rooted in the deep desire to belong alongside someone who doesn't need anyone else to be complete. This love is rare, and it only arises from authentic emotional strength. Therefore, the secret isn't avoiding the tests, it's overcoming them. And winning isn't responding coldly. It's not playing against her. It's staying centered. It's not changing your behavior just because she backs off. It's not trying to force connection when she creates space. It's letting her feel the silence, the emptiness, the doubt, because it's in that space that she begins to sense your presence more deeply. And what's more, it's in that space that she returns, of her own free will, because the man who stands the test is the man she chooses to keep. This brings us to the most powerful strategy in this chapter, mirroring absence with composure, not reactivity. She pulled away. You don't run, you breathe, you live, you thrive. Because the man who thrives in silence reigns in her desire. This behavior sends a silent message. I don't need to prove anything to you. I am. And this being, this state of unshakable inner presence, is the greatest proof of worth you can give. No catchphrase, no gift, no emotional text will overcome the impact of you keeping your cool when everything indicates you should be broken. And that's why this game isn't for boys. It's for men. Men who understand that her every action, no matter how irrational it may seem, is an emotional probe, a stability scanner, a veiled plea, please show me you're stronger than me. Yes, as paradoxical as it may seem, what she wants most is to lose control, to lose power, to lose emotional leadership. Because she only feels secure and feminine when she feels you're stronger than her inside. And herein lies the contradiction that fuels female desire. She wants to feel she can dominate you, but wants to see you fail in the attempt. Every time she tests you and you remain unshaken, she feels pleasure. Not because she's defeated you, but because she's finally found someone she can admire. And that kind of man is extremely rare. That's why she falls in love. That's why she chooses. Because in the end, desire doesn't choose the most handsome, the most charismatic, the richest. Desire chooses the most steadfast. And if you understand this, you're already light years ahead of most. Because now you'll no longer react to tests with despair. You'll welcome them with awareness. You'll see them as an opportunity to demonstrate your true worth. And you'll, above all, understand that her every silence, every retreat, every gesture of doubt is, in fact, an invitation. Prove you're different. And when you prove it, not with words but with actions, you become unforgettable. So, breathe. Remember, the test will come. Always. It could be tomorrow. It could be a month from now. It could be in the midst of a happy moment. But it will come. And when it comes, you'll have two choices. React like an ordinary man, or respond like a master of your own emotions. The difference between these two paths is simple. But it defines whether you'll be just another one on her list, or the only one she'll ever forget. Now you've made it this far. You understand the cycle. You've mastered the game of presence. You've learned to use absence as a weapon. You've realized how hypergamy can be your greatest ally if used strategically. And now, you've unlocked the code behind the tests that destroy the weak and elevate the strong. But there's one last step left. A closure. Because knowing all this and not acting is like having the key to a safe and never opening the door. So take a deep breath, because in the conclusion that follows, you'll understand how to transform all this wisdom into real results, and why the man she loves is always the one she feels she could lose. Everything you've learned so far reveals an uncomfortable truth. Most men fail not for lack of effort, but for acting at the wrong moment, for saying too much when they should be silent, for being present when the game demands absence. They fail because they don't understand that seduction isn't about insistence, it's about positioning. That desire isn't about convincing, it's about provoking. And that real love only arises when she feels she might lose you. And even then, you remain unshakable. But understanding this isn't enough. You need to internalize it, live it, embody it, because in the real realm of emotions, you won't have time to think. She'll test you in the middle of a compliment. She'll challenge you with sudden silence. She'll alternate affection with coldness without warning. And if you don't have the right reflexes, you'll sabotage everything you've built in seconds. That's why the Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds, isn't just an audiobook. It's a strategic weapon, a psychological codification of seduction applied in real time. While others consume superficial 5-minute videos expecting magical results, you will have in your hands or in your headphones the power to reprogram your mind to read signals, activate emotional triggers, and master the rhythm of connection before she even realizes she's being attracted. This is invisible control. This is elite influence. Imagine being on a date and, instead of feeling anxious, you hear that inner voice, firm and strategic, telling you exactly what to do. Imagine sending a message that seems simple but instills desire. Imagine disappearing for 2 days, and when you return, she treats you as if you've been in emotional withdrawal. This isn't luck, this is method. This is the neuroscience of applied seduction. The link is below.